South's oldest rivalry with Georgia hosting number 9 Auburn. The Tigers, along with the Wisconsin Badgers, are two teams that have clear shots to the college football playoff despite 2 losses. Of course, Auburn would have to go through Alabama en route to the SEC championship. But first, it's the date with Georgia. The Bulldogs, despite the mess that the East is, have basically no shot, a 2% shot, something like that, at 3-4, 5-4 overall. Mike, Auburn almost slipped up against Vandy at home last week. Sean White got into the ball game, and they avoided disaster despite the exploits of Zach Cunningham, who made one of the more remarkable plays we've seen at this stage in the season. So it's Auburn and Georgia.
Yeah, Mark, you just talked about South Carolina, made the argument that South Carolina with Will Muschamp and Jake Bentley might have laid the best foundation going forward in the conference. You turn that around, you look at the expectations of Jacob Eason and Kirby Smart at Georgia coming into this season, and you got to ask yourself, has Georgia, in the combination of Kirby Smart and Jacob Eason, been the biggest disappointment in the conference this year? I think there's a lot of questions in Georgia. Even their wins, they had a nice win opening week against North Carolina. They barely escaped Nicholls State. Of course, they lost on that crushing Hail Mary to Tennessee. They got crushed by Ole Miss. Came out very disappointing game against Florida, and then they had to kick a last-second field goal to beat Kentucky. A lot of Georgia fans are kind of looking back and saying, hey, you know what? We would have liked Mark 10-win Rick right now. They're battling, and a lot of question marks there in Athens. And I think what you're going to see is you're going to see Auburn come in, and they understand that Auburn controls their own destiny in the SEC West. They are one of 2 teams, Alabama being the other, that control their own destiny. And I think Gus Malzahn handing over the play calling duties to Rhett Lashlee has been beneficial for the Tigers. If they can get their running game going, of course, they came in, they felt they'd lost all their running backs, and now they're just putting up a couple hundred yards apiece on teams. I think they're going to run through Georgia. I think Gus Malzahn has that team focused, and they have that Iron Bowl circle, and they're focused, and they're looking to get to the Iron Bowl and still in a position to win the SEC championship. I don't think Georgia's defense is going to be able to handle Auburn. I think Auburn goes to Georgia. They're in Georgia, correct? Yeah. I think Auburn goes to Georgia, and I think that Auburn running attack really puts Georgia's defense in a bad position. I think Auburn wins this pretty handily.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this game, and I think you have to look at the Auburn run game versus the Georgia run game defense. That Georgia's pretty good at stopping the run, but they haven't seen a rushing attack like they're going to see when Auburn comes to town. I didn't see how healthy Cameron Petway is, and when he was running for a touchdown, and he kind of came up with an injury. You don't necessarily know what it was. Auburn's been pretty quiet about it, maybe a quad injury, because he kind of reached for the front of his leg there, not for the back of his leg. So we'll kind of see where he is at. But Auburn has many options there, whether Petway is in there or not. I kind of look at, this Auburn defense has kind of flown under the radar so far this year. I know Mike's a big fan of this Auburn defense, and he brings it up almost every week. So, they're going against Jacob Eason, and I think a similar defense that he played a couple weeks ago in Florida, where Florida just abused him time and time again. I kind of see the same thing happening from the Auburn side as well. That defensive line will be able to abuse the Georgia offensive line, and that secondary, it's pretty good for Auburn as well, because the Georgia receivers just not there like in the past. They don't have that big breakaway star receiver they can necessarily count on. To come up with big play, Isaiah McKenzie every now and then, but not one close enough to keep the chains moving and a big time number 1 receiver. So I think it kind of just sets up for Auburn's run game to control it and Auburn's defense to control it. So I kind of see the game looking like maybe a couple weeks ago where Florida and Georgia, where Auburn but have much more success running the ball than Florida did. So I kind of agree with Mike. I kind of see, maybe like a 31-10 type of game coming out here.
Yeah, I think Dave's right. If you look at the Auburn defense, I actually think they're better than Florida's defense. Look at what Auburn did against Clemson and against other teams, but I think Auburn's defense is underappreciated and underranked nationally.
Yeah, Auburn's defense has not had a down week, period. They have not had a down week. They lost the one game against Clemson, giving up 19 points to Deshaun Watson. They shut down the run game, Wayne Gallman and company. They lost to Texas A&M 23-9 or something like that. But the defense played extremely well. The offense at that point was still a mess before they found a ground game with Cameron Petway.